Au-delà de la fortune.
Apolo baba kofinga pona bomanzo do yanga dote mosala oyo liboso na nga baloba mpo nayeba matoyi ekosala mpasi Saddam Hussein yoka mbelope oyo iyoyo mamburu mingi mongo naza pembeni na yo bakolia yo lokola mpuku mabe bakosala na moninga pele nakisana yango sala ekende mwana nzela oyo kotambola
Hi everyone, I'm Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. Just want to quickly tell you about a new and exciting radio show that I'm going to be hosting called Bebe Means Business. And I'll be discussing the importance of developing different income streams in today's climate and focusing on the small business as one such viable income stream. I'll be sharing valuable tips on how to set up a small business successfully and diversify into other areas. I'll also show you how to discover your gifts and your talents and how you can monetize them, all with the aim of helping your dream of becoming financially free become a reality. So join me, Bebe Clement, every Tuesday on Star Radio at 1:30 p.m. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bebe Clement. I run a group of successful companies, and I'm also the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. I want to welcome you to the second episode of Bebe Means Business, the program where we talk about everything to do with business, how to start it, how to grow it, how to avoid the pitfalls, and more importantly, how to use it as a source of creating enduring wealth that you can pass down to your children and your children's children, so that you can go to your grave knowing that you have done right by your children and your children's children. I want to thank everyone who tuned in last week. And thank you very much for all your questions and your feedback. That's really, really helped us, and hopefully it will help me shape the program for the future so that you can get the most out of it as possible. So last week we talked about finding your why in business. Why should you go into business? Why should you go into business? What's the point? What's the point? Should you just stay in your work and work for somebody else for life? Or should you become an entrepreneur? So we looked at different things. We looked at, for instance, how the system, the economic system, is stacked against you. We looked at that. We also looked at the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and the significance of that in your financial freedom. We looked at getting a personal why, your own personal reasons for why you need to go into business. So we looked at things like some people just want to have more control over their own destiny. Some people want to be able to control their time a little bit more. Others are just sick of somebody else telling them what to do, when to turn up, how long they can have for their break, and how long they can have off sick and all that. For some people, it's even closer. Perhaps their family situation demands that they go into business, or work is just not right for their family situation. Maybe they have young children, they want to spend a bit more time with them, or they're raising children with special needs that demand more attention. Anything. Your why could be anything, but the point that we made last week was that you must find your why, because it is your why that will keep you through the dark times in business. And indeed, there are many dark times in business. So today we're going to be talking about something completely different. We're going to be talking about the mindset of an entrepreneur. The mindset of an entrepreneur. And one of my hobbies is actually reading as much as possible about people who are successful in business. That's one of my hobbies. In fact, during this whole COVID-19, I decided to make a list of all the millionaires that I know and to interview them to see if there were certain characteristics and types amongst them that would lend themselves to success in business. And I have discovered through my research and everything that I've read that there are actually common threads by way of lifestyle, habits, and outlook that have greatly contributed to these people's success. I'd actually go as far as saying that between 70 and 80% of business success has absolutely nothing to do with whether you have money, nothing to do with the amount of opportunities that are around. I say that because when I do business seminars or I meet people, they often tell me, oh, I would do well in business, but I don't have any money. I would do well in business, but I don't have any contacts. But I find that those who do well in business, the external circumstances are not the things that make them successful. It is the intrinsic things that are going on that make them successful. It is what's going on in here and what's going on in there, the mindset. So I just thought it would be a good idea if we could discuss some of these things, these important ingredients, so that we can adopt them if we want to be successful. Just to let you know that we're live and this is an interactive program. I want to hear your views on anything that we discussed today and try and answer some of your questions. So please hook up with us. You can hook us up on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @StarRadioUK, and star is double R. Or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 744. That number again, 07539 661 744. Or you can email us at info@StarRadioUK or join us via Facebook @Star Radio UK. So let's get this show on the road. Now, one of the first things that I have found in relation to people who are successful in business is they understand something really important that the majority of us don't. So I'm going to ask you a question before I tell you what that thing is. What do you think is your greatest asset in life? Now, those of you who know me, you know that I do a lot of seminars in relation to business. And I make it a point of duty to always ask that question because it reveals a lot. What do you think is your greatest asset in life? And I'm going to tell you some of the responses I get. The greatest response I get is people say money. Money is their greatest resource in life. Others will say their gifting, their talents or their gifting are their greatest resource in life. For others, it's their health. Now, health I can even understand because truly, if you are not well, it's difficult for you to pursue entrepreneurship in the manner in which it must be pursued. So I even get the health bit. Some will say it is their family or friends. I disagree. I think your greatest resource in life is time. You know why that is? It's because you can never get it back. That's why whenever you're doing anything, the fact that you're tuned into this program, you should always be present in the moment. Because this program lasts for about 45 minutes. You are never going to get the next 45 minutes of your life back. You can get money back. Money comes and it goes. Look at someone like Donald Trump. Donald Trump has gone bankrupt, I think, about 3 times now. You can lose money and get it back, no problem. You can even lose your health and regain that. Les Brown has had cancer twice in 20 years. He's beaten cancer twice. So in some cases, you can even get your health back. And we know that family and friends, they come and go. But time is the only thing that you can never get back. And every entrepreneur that has been successful that I know of understands this concept and values their time. I have not met a successful business person that spends their day gossiping on the phone or watching movies endlessly or just flipping through pointless WhatsApp images and messages. They don't have time for that. They value their time. They jealously guard it and they don't let you waste it. So it's not unusual for you to want to book an appointment with somebody, with a successful entrepreneur, and they say to you something like, okay, Bebe, I'll see you at 1:30, but you got 30 minutes. They're very specific about their time. You never hear them say, okay, we can meet at 1:30 to 2:15-ish. No, they never do that. It is 1:30 and you got 30 minutes. And I can assure you after that 30 minutes, no matter where you are in that meeting, they're going to stand up and they're going to go because they value their time. Now, I'm going to say something and I'd like you to write this down if you are taking notes. I know many of you do. Wealthy people or people who are successful in business exchange their money for time. They exchange their money for time. Poor people do the opposite. Poor people exchange their time, which, as we said earlier, is their greatest resource in life. They exchange their time for money. Anything that will buy a rich man money, will buy him time, he will pay for it. He doesn't care. That is why wealthy people spend so much money on professional advice. They hire the best lawyers, the best business advisors, the best tax consultants, because it saves them time. Whereas poor people take their greatest resource and they spend. We use our greatest resource and we use it to build somebody else's dream. Because whenever you else's dream, whatever it is, and then the sad thing about it, and you may not agree with this, but I think history bears me true, that you do that day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, only to get to something like 60 and 64, if you're lucky enough to get there, and discover that by way of exchange of your time, you actually have very little to show for the money. Meanwhile, the wise, industrious entrepreneur has used that time to plan his business, use that time to look for ways in which he can make his money work for him rather than him work for the money. So he's used that time to set up a business. He's used that time to look for the best shares that he can buy. He's used that time to invest in property. He's used that time for something else. Whereas unsuccessful or poor people do exactly the opposite. I read something recently, and I'm telling you, this really upset me, but sadly, I found it to be true. I read something where they said that they have now decided to use time as an indicator to identify poor people. You know, when they're grading countries, they say this is a developed country or this is a rich country and this is a poor country. They look at certain things that are indicators. They look at things like the GDP, the daily wage of the indigents of that country, that kind of thing. And those indicators tell them whether this is a rich nation or a poor nation. One of the indicators that they have adopted now is timekeeping. They have discovered that poor people tend not to have an understanding or value time. And when I looked at my people, I found sadly that this is true. And if you think I'm lying, the next time you have a party, you tell people that that party is going to start at 6 and then watch what time they arrive. It's sad, but it's true that there is a direct correlation between poverty and people who do not respect time. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we can look at that is also a part of the mindset and the lifestyle of successful entrepreneurs is they are problem solvers. They are problem solvers. They're always looking around for a problem to solve. I remember reading Richard Branson's autobiography. He told us he got into the aviation industry. And he said he was on a flight. He was going back to the Virgin Islands. And his flight was cancelled. And everybody, of course, you know how irritating that can be. You've got so many things you've got to do when you get back to where your destination. You got to go to meetings, you got to go to work, you got to take care of family, that kind of thing. So people were really distressed. So he could see that this was a problem. So he went and asked how much it would cost for him to charter a plane. And they told him. And he calculated how much each passenger would have to pay to cover that cost. And so he put that on a placard and walked around the airport saying, whatever, maybe it's London, London one way, £300. If you're interested in buying a ticket, queue here. And people were, and they paid for it. And that's how Richard Branson got into the aviation business. He saw a problem, he provided a solution. He saw a problem and he provided a solution. So to all of you budding entrepreneurs out there, what problems do you see post-COVID-19 or post-lockdown that you can solve? What gaps in the market have been birthed because of that many businesses have gone under and because the business map has been redrawn that your product or your service can assist with? What can you see that needs fixing? That needs fixing. I do apologize for that. What needs changing and what needs solving? That's what you need to be looking at. That is what successful business people do. Now, I'll give you a quick example just before we go for a break. I'll give you a quick example. A few years ago, I was in Nigeria and I wanted to go to the bank to see my bank manager. And as I approached the bank, I was shocked to see this massive queue of what seemed to be quite young people. They were probably in their 20s. And the queue went from the bank all the way down the street, right round the corner. And so when I got to the bank, I asked my bank manager, what's happening? Why are all these people queuing up? He said, oh, we're recruiting. So I said, oh, okay. You must have loads of vacancies. He said, no, actually, we have only 10 vacancies. I said, you have 10 vacancies? He said, yes. I said, have you seen the queue? There must be at least 500 people in that queue. He said, yeah, baby, don't you know that we have mass unemployment? We have a glut of graduates and they have no jobs. That's why there's so many of them. So I began to think, what services could my business offer that could help with that problem? So I thought, okay, if I could get these young people to move from their mindset of being job seekers to job creators, if I could equip them to think like business people, then maybe that would help. So I approached somebody I knew. I approached one of my benefactors and I said, could you introduce me? There was a traditional ruler that I knew was working with young people. And I said, could you introduce me to him so I could have maybe a conference or something and speak to young people and just train them and equip them for business? And she said to me, why do you want to do that? I'd be happy to sponsor something like that and I'd pay you to do it. And that's what she did. And so I was able to speak to young people and equip them to begin to think like business people, to recognize and discover their gifts and to learn how to monetize those gifts. These are the kind of things that we did. So there was a problem and I provided a solution. So I'd like to hear if your business was born out of solving a problem, or if you've recognized a problem now, since we've been locked down, do you think your business would be able to solve? So let's start, and I'd like to hear from you afterwards. Don't go away. This is Bebe Means Business.
This is Star Radio UK.
Hi everyone, I'm Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. Just want to quickly tell you about a new and exciting radio show that I'm going to be hosting called Bebe Means Business. And I'll be discussing the importance of developing different income streams in today's climate and focusing on the small business as one such viable income stream. I'll be sharing valuable tips on how to set up a small business successfully and diversify into other areas. I'll also show you how to discover your gifts and your talents and how you can monetize them, all with the aim of helping your dream of becoming financially free become a reality. So join me, Bebe Clement, every Tuesday on Star Radio at 1:30 p.m. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
This is Star Radio UK.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's your girl, Bebe Clement, author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. As you know, you are tuned into Bebe Means Business, the program where we talk about everything to do with business. How to start it, how to grow it, how to protect it, how to collaborate with other people as well in order to make it grow. Just before we went on break, we were talking about how to use your business to solve a problem. We're talking about how successful people, that's how they're always thinking, what problem can I solve? What problem can I solve? And I'd like to hear from you if you've identified any problem in the market since the lockdown and COVID-19 that you think your business can help with once this lockdown is lifted. If you have a business idea and you'd like to run it by us that we could talk about that could help post COVID-19. Those of you who ask any questions or give us your opinion on anything that you've heard, there's a free copy of my book that's in the post for you today. So please do call in and we'll take those questions throughout the program. All right. So as you know, we're talking today about the mindset of an entrepreneur, So we want to look at some other things that successful entrepreneurs do by way of habits, lifestyle habits, and the kind of mindset that they have. Another one is they have a very healthy attitude towards failure. Now, for most people, failure is a bad thing. But successful people don't see failure like that. They see failure as a springboard for their next success. Mary Kay, you remember Mary Kay, who started that billion-dollar industry, Mary Kay Cosmetics. She had a famous saying, which I love, I absolutely love. She said, "We fail forward to success. We fail forward to success." What did she mean by that? What she meant was that what we see as eventual success by way of business is usually just a culmination of people having tried something, they failed, they got up, they analyzed it, they looked at what went wrong, what they should do differently, what role they played in the failure, how they can avoid it failing again. They dusted themselves off and they tried again. They did the same thing, they tried it again, they failed, then they got up, they analyzed, they took responsibility for what failed, they looked at what they need to do differently, and they tried again. And that's how they kept going. That's how they kept going. Look, don't be fooled. It is not everything that all these successful business people do that turns into gold. They don't always have the Midas touch. Richard Branson has done so many business ventures that have gone belly up. I don't think Virgin Cola exists anymore, and I think Virgin Bright has disappeared. I remember Bishop T.D. Jakes. Bishop T.D. Jakes had, as successful as he is, he had a show a little while ago which got cancelled in less than a year. I think after the first or second season, it was cancelled. It is not everything that they have touched that has turned to gold. But once they fail in a particular thing, they get up and they try again. You must see failure as a learning curve, because that's all it is. It's a learning curve, irrespective of how many times you fail. And I say that because people often say to me, well, am I just going to keep failing in business and keep going? So here's my question to you. You know, those of you who have children and your children are very young, they're babies and they're trying to learn to walk. And maybe the first time they try and stand and they stagger and they fall. But eventually they will stand. They stand by they're holding something to support them. And after a while, they'll leave whatever is supporting them and they'll stand on their own. And then they take their first step and then they fall. They take 2 steps and they fall. And they can do that for ages. At what point do you say to them, well, you know what, you've been trying to do this for the last 1 month and you're clearly not getting the hang of it, so don't even bother anymore? I mean, no parent says that. Why? Because in their failing, they are learning. In their failing, they are learning. And eventually, they get to walk. So it's the same thing in business. In your failing, you will learn, and eventually it will come together. Now, it is important, though, that you learn the lessons from failure. That's the important bit. If you just do the same thing over and over again, then you're going to get the same results. But it's important that you have a look at what failed and what role did you play in that failure. I'll give a quick example. A few years ago, there was a couple I knew that went into business, and they were providing food stuff, yes, wholesale food stuff to the Black community. And I remember when I went to have a look at their warehouse, they leased this really big, and I mean big, warehouse. And I remember when I went to have a look at the warehouse, I thought, my initial thought was, these people didn't get good advice as regards the location of this warehouse, because the warehouse was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around it that would bring you there. If you didn't know that they were there and you weren't coming there specifically to buy from them, there was nothing in the vicinity that would make you come there. So I went there and I had a look, and I kept my thoughts to myself. I didn't want to say that to discourage them. But then they told me that they had leased the warehouse. So I said, oh, has somebody had a look at the lease for you? Has a lawyer read the lease for you? Because my background is law. So I said, has a lawyer read the lease for you? They said, oh, no, there's no need. There's not a problem. We've had a look at it and it's fine. So I said, okay, I didn't want to press the point because I didn't want them to think I was trying to make money out of them, because that was not the reason why I was asking. So anyway, long story short, the business didn't do very well. And within about 18 months, the business went belly up. So they then decided to close the business. They moved to a smaller location And then they gave back the keys to the landlord. So the landlord said, "Thank you very much. I'm sorry the business didn't go very well, but you now owe me 3.5 years rent." And they said, "How come? We were only there. We were there for less than 18 months. He said, "Well, if you read the lease will tell you that the break clause doesn't kick in until the 5th year. So you owe me 3.5 years rent." So in that kind of case, clearly they were not taking good advice. So that was a failure. So if they were going to start a business, if they were going to do another business, that would be what they identified. If we're going to do a business again, we must get proper advice. 1, 2, we must have somebody look over the lease for us. So that's all that's important. You just make sure that you learn from the lessons. Also, you need to separate yourself from the failure. The fact that you failed at a business does not make you a failure. I'm going to say that again because this is what paralyzes people. They do a business, they fail, they think that they are a failure, and then they're reluctant to try again. That's not the case. The fact that you failed at a business just means you failed at a business. It doesn't make you a failure. I remember reading about Albert Einstein when he was trying to discover the light bulb. And he'd experimented, I think about 900 and something times, and he'd failed. And he was being interviewed, and they asked him, they said, "Why do you keep going? Clearly you failed at this thing." He said, "Because I think I'm making progress." And wasn't he right? I mean, history tells us that he was right. He was indeed making progress. Just to say again that the lines are open, I'd like to hear from you. If you've ever failed at a business, or a business that you were in went bust, I'd like to hear from you. Let's hear your story. How did you get out of it? How did you pick yourself up? Did you later go on to run a successful business? Tell us something that will inspire our listeners. Once again, I have a free copy of my book for those of you who call in. And our Twitter handle, if you're contacting us through Twitter, is @StarRadioUK. Or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 744, or email us at Star Radio, or join us via Facebook at Star Radio UK. I'm just going to tell you a quick story about how my husband and I failed at our first business, and then we're going to take another break. What happened was we just got married, and we decided we wanted to go into business. So we were importing specialist pasta from Italy, and we were making some traction. We started supplying some shops, some specialist shops. Because it was specialist pasta, it was quite new to the UK because the UK palate wasn't really used to that. So we had things like squid ink flavored pasta, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, we got this massive order from an airline. I have no idea how they came across our pasta, but we had this massive order from an airline, and we were ecstatic. The only problem was that they wanted a 90-day turnaround. So they gave us a letter of credit for 90 days, which means that we would supply them the products upfront, and they had 90 days with which to pay us. But we could use that letter of credit to go and raise finance in which to buy the pasta. So we were happy. That sounded good to us, so we were happy. So we took the letter of credit to our bank manager. And our bank manager sat across the table from us and said, "Mr. and Mrs. Clement, do you have any collateral? What collateral do you have?" And we said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Do you own your own home?" Well, we just got married and we were living in a council flat, so no, we didn't own our own home. So we said, "No, we don't." He said, "Okay, do you have any savings?" And we said, "No, we don't have any savings." "Okay. Do you have any other investments that you can use by way of collateral?" And we said, "No." So, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you then, Mr. and Mrs. Clement, we will not be lending you any money." And we couldn't understand it. We said, "But we have the letter of credit from the airline. You can contact them." He said, "It doesn't matter. Banks are not interested in whether you're going to be successful or not. Banks are interested in, are we going to get our money back? And if we didn't have collateral, as far as they were concerned, we were too high risk." Now that makes sense. It makes sense. And to be honest, that really opened my eyes to the importance of ownership, But the point I was trying to make is that we got so discouraged as a result of that we wound down the business. We failed at that business. But thankfully, we picked ourselves up and we learned from it, and we realized the importance of having collateral and ownership. And we have gone on to found many other successful businesses since then. So I'm going to take another break, and I'd like to hear from you. What business have you been in that went bust or you failed at, and what did you do to get out of it? Join us after the break.
Hi everyone, I'm Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. Just want to quickly tell you about a new and exciting radio show that I'm going to be hosting called Bebe Means Business. And I'll be discussing the importance of developing different income streams in today's climate and focusing on the small business as one such viable income stream. I'll be sharing valuable tips on how to set up a small business successfully and diversify into other areas. I'll also show you how to discover your gifts and your talents and how you can monetize them, all with the aim of helping your dream of becoming financially free become a reality. So join me, Bebe Clement, every Tuesday on Star Radio at 1:30 p.m. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to Bebe Means Business, the business show where we discuss everything to do with business and entrepreneurship. And today we are discussing the mindset of successful entrepreneurs. What are the habits or the lifestyles that successful entrepreneurs have that the rest of us don't seem to have that makes them successful? I want to do a quick shout out. Thank you very much, Stella Ikenek, who is joining us on Facebook. She says, thank you, Bebe, for the valuable tips. My pleasure. I hope that they galvanize you into doing well in business. Also want to thank Oscar Diamond for joining us. Pastor Oscar Diamond, thank you very much for tuning in today. I'd like to hear from other people too who have started a business and perhaps failed at it, but were able to pick themselves up and went on to do other things. Okay. So we're going to go on to the next point, the next thing that successful entrepreneurs do. They believe in themselves. They believe in themselves. Even when nobody else does, they believe in themselves. They have an I can do attitude. And that can do attitude gives birth to tenacity and perseverance. I actually think that sometimes the only difference between somebody who does well in business and somebody who fails in business is that those who do well are more tenacious. They want it more. They persevere more. They push through more. On I think it's my Facebook page, I have a saying, and I said, to be successful in business, you must be willing to knock on every door until it opens and kick down every door that doesn't. I'll say that again. To be successful in business, you must be willing to knock on every door until it opens and kick down every door that doesn't. Okay, so the mindset is really important. Like I said, those who are successful in business, they look at obstacles, and the first thing they're thinking is, how do I get around this? So unlike the majority of people who see a brick wall and immediately retreat, successful business people are not like that. They look at that brick wall and they're thinking, okay, how do I climb over this? And if they can't climb over it, they're thinking, how do I dig a hole under this? And if they can't dig a hole under it, they're thinking, how can I go around it? They refuse to take no for an answer. They refuse. One of my favorite stories is a story by Les Brown. Les Brown is my favorite motivational speaker. And he tells the story of how he got into radio. He wanted to be a DJ. And he didn't have any experience of working in radio, but there was a local radio station that he wanted to join. So he went down there and he spoke to the radio manager and he introduced himself. And he asked the radio manager, the station manager, if they had any vacancies. And the station manager said, no, we don't have any vacancies. So he said, okay, thank you, sir. And he went away. The next day he came back and said the same thing. He said, I'm Les Brown. I'd like to work for your station. Do you have any vacancies? And the guy said, weren't you here yesterday? He said, yeah. I said, so what did I tell you yesterday? He said, you told me there are no vacancies. He said, so why are you here again? He said, because I didn't know anything could have happened. Somebody might have lost their job or somebody might have died overnight. So I thought there might be some vacancies. And the guy said, nobody died and nobody lost the job. Get out of here. So he left. The third day, he came back again. He said, I'm Les Brown. Do you have any vacancies? The guy said, are you serious? Didn't I tell you yesterday or the day before that we didn't have any vacancies? He said, yes. He said, so what are you doing again? He said, well, I just thought maybe I'd check again. He did this. The fourth day he came back. The guy said, you're making me sick. Go and get me a cup of coffee. And that was how Les Brown got into radio. He started volunteering, started getting to know all the DJs, learned how to work all the knobs. And then one day, he was at the station, and the guy presenting a program was drunk. And he was beginning to slur his words. So the station manager picked up the phone. The station manager said, the guy's name was Rock. Rock is on the program. He's drinking. He's beginning to slur his words. Look around and see if you can get any of the other DJs. He said, okay. Put the phone down. He called his mom and called his girlfriend and said, I'm about to come on the radio. Put the radio on. He called the station manager back and told the station manager, I can't find any other DJs. The guy said, do you know how to work the knobs? He said, yes. He said, we'll go on the show. And that's how Les Brown got into radio. That is how successful entrepreneurs think. They're always looking for an opportunity. They have tenacity and they persevere. They refuse to take no for an answer. Another thing that they do is they don't dwell too long at the well of success. They don't dwell too long at the well of success. Success can actually be just as much a hindrance as failure if you stay too long there. So when they've done something great, maybe they've launched a product and that product is really good. If they've done something great, they celebrate. But then they move on and they look for the next challenge. They don't stay there. Because if you do, you end up giving up the great for the good. I remember an interview by one of the greatest architects of the 20th century, Frank Lloyd Wright. And he'd commissioned over 1,000 buildings, and they were beautiful buildings, and he was very wealthy. And the interviewer asked him, said, out of all these wonderful buildings that you have commissioned, which one is your best one? Do you know what he said? He said, my next one. My next one will be the best. That's a man who does not dwell too long at the well of success. He knew that he was fantastic at what he did, but he knew there were more mountains to climb, and he was quick and eager to go and get them. Okay. All right. I think we'll just do one more before we end the show. One more habit of successful entrepreneurs that you can learn from and you can adapt. They understand that their network is their net worth. Their net worth is dependent on their network. I'm going to say that again, excuse me. They understand that their network is their net worth. So they're very choosy about the kind of people that they hang around with. And I often say this, if you have 7 broke friends, guess who's going to be number 8? That's right, you. So you've got to have make sure that you take the time to choose the kind of people you're going to have in your life if you are going to be successful in business. They say that a rising tide lifts all boats. You can do well in business simply by the kind of people you hang around. If you hang around people who are successful at what you are trying to be successful at, just tapping into their knowledge, their wisdom, their contacts will lift you and propel you into success in your business. Now, if you're serious about your business, there's certain people that I think you need to get rid of. You really do need to get rid of. And I'm going to really quickly run through them before we end the show. 1, you need to get rid of negative people. Negative people are people who, when you tell your dreams to them, they will give you 100 reasons why that dream or that business is never going to get off the ground. Oh, well, so-and-so tried it and it didn't work out. Oh, well, you're not really going to be able to do it. Oh, you need to get rid of those kind of people. You need to be around people who will feed your dreams, I'm not talking about people who will lie to you, but people who will feed your dreams. You need to get rid of people who are not going anywhere. You've heard the saying that misery likes company. There are people who are not going anywhere and they want you to go with them. So you need to get rid of that kind of those kind of people as soon as possible. Otherwise, they will drown your dreams. So you need to get rid of those kind of people. All right? Okay. You also need to get rid of people who constantly waste their time, engage in time-wasting activities. You need to get rid of those kind of people who just sit around and watch movies all the time. You need to get rid of those kind of people. So you also need to get rid of people who complain. All they do is complain about the economy, complain about the circumstance, complain about how they would have done better if their circumstances were different. Get rid of those kind of people. There's no growth in complaining. There's no success in complaining. Get rid of those kind of people. People who are risk takers are people you need to be around. Those are the kind of people you need to be around. That's another thing that that successful entrepreneurs do. I just want to quickly read something that somebody sent. Somebody sent something in today, and it relates to what we were discussing last week. They said, the question is, could you please pass this question to the presenter for me? Says, my question is, does my why, last week we were speaking about why, does my why have to remain constant throughout the life of the business, or can my why change over time? Of course. Of course. You might start your why because, let's say, for instance, you went through a divorce and you were financially dependent on your spouse and he's gone now. So you have to do something and you're left with the children. And so you can't go back to work. So that might be your initial why. But as time goes on, your children will get older. So the why may change. It might not then be, well, actually, I'm quite good at business. And so I want to continue doing something that I'm good at. So that might be your why. So your why may change over time. So I hope that answers your question. That question was sent in by Eniton. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, keep those questions coming. And the last one we're going to talk about is risk taking. Successful business people are risk takers. Now, if you have no appetite for risk, then perhaps being an entrepreneur is not for you. Now, risk does not mean that you have to be silly or you have to take foolish decisions. So you don't have to then go to work tomorrow and jack in your job, throw in your resignation. That you don't necessarily have to. You don't have to do that. Risk has to be calculated. Risk and foolhardiness are not synonymous. It must be measured depending on your circumstances. But I remember there was a time I actually did that. I had a conversation with some of my colleagues and they were telling me that they'd been at that job for 10 years, 15 years, and they really weren't making any progress. So I was scared. And as a result, I went in the next day and I resigned. And that was a huge risk, but I paid for that. So I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. But I could do that at the time because I didn't have any children. We just gotten married. So I could afford to do that at the time. If I had kids, then there's no way I'd take that kind of risk. So your risk must be measured. But I want to end today's show with a story, quite a sad story, actually, about the dangers of being risk averse if you are in business. And it's a story that I read in the biography of Steve Jobs, who is one of my heroes. As you know, Steve Jobs was co-founder of Apple. And what happened was, he and his partner, Steve Wozniak, they were having problems. They were having problems. And Steve Jobs wanted Steve Wozniak to bring the designs for his computers and the things that he was producing. He wanted him to bring them in-house and bring them under the umbrella of Apple. And Steve Wozniak was reluctant to do that. As you know, Steve Wozniak was really the brains behind it. Steve Jobs was the business person, but Steve Wozniak was the brain. He was producing all the hardware and everything. So in order to convince Steve Wozniak to do this, he engaged he asked a friend of his called Ron Wayne if he would if he would mediate between them and convince Steve Wozniak to do as he wanted him to do. And in return, he would offer him 10%. He would give him a 10% stake in Apple. So Ron said, okay, that's cool. He'll do that. So he did. He was successful in mediating between them and convincing Steve Steve Wozniak to bring his products and his under the umbrella of Apple. But he decided actually that he didn't want a 10% stake in Apple because the way in which the company was set up, it wasn't set up like a corporation. It was set up like a personal business. So he was afraid that if the business went under, he would be personally liable. There'll be several liability. He'd be personally liable for any debt that was accrued. So he didn't want to do that. So he turned that down. Now, if he had accepted that 10%, if he had gone into business with them, at 1998, he would have been worth 2.6 billion. He said no. And unfortunately, he ended up unemployed, on welfare, living in a flat in Nevada. You must take risks if you're going to go into business. So that brings us to the end of the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much again for joining me. Really appreciate it. You've been listening to BB Means Business. I'm going to be here every Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about all things business. I hope that you stay safe, stay inside, don't risk your life, but use this time to think about your business and all that you can do. So remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi everyone, I'm Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. Just want to quickly tell you about a new and exciting radio show that I'm going to be hosting called BB Means Business. And I'll be discussing the importance of developing different income streams in today's climate and focusing on the small business as one such viable income stream. I'll be sharing valuable tips on how to set up a small business successfully and diversify into other areas. I'll also show you how to discover your gifts and your talents and how you can monetize them, all with the aim of helping your dream of becoming financially free become a reality. So join me, Bebe Clement, every Tuesday on Star Radio at 1:30 p.m. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Thanks for listening.
This is Star Radio UK.
Hi guys, this is your friend from Sendwave. Sendwave is a money transfer app that you can download onto your smartphone and send money to Ghana and Nigeria. Sendwave is absolutely commission free. No matter how many times you send money or whatever the amount may be, you will never have to pay any commission ever. Your money is transferred in 30 seconds, and right now, Sendwave is offering the best exchange rates in the market. Don't believe me? Look for yourself. Join me on the morning show on Star Radio every Tuesday at 12:45 p.m. In the meantime, download the Sendwave app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Remember to use the promo code STAR to get £5 free credit. That's STARR. Bye for now.